Okay, boys, time for another video lesson on a William Blake poem. This time, our reading has pushed us into the poems that are part of Songs of Experience. As we discussed before, the Songs of Innocence and Songs of Experience, well, Songs of Innocence in particular, it's not as though the topics are that Blake covers are devoid of misery and horror. Rather, it's the reaction of the speaker to the situations and the perspective, sort of the lens through which the speaker is looking, is I would say diametrically opposed in the Songs of Experience versus Songs of Innocence. So here with the Chimney Sweeper, its companion piece we covered last reading. So I should tell you, though, that today's unpacking is brought to you by the Kitaboshi 9606 HB for general use, academic writing. Delightful. All right, so let's go ahead and deal with the poem. I'll go ahead and read it. The Chimney Sweeper by William Blake. A little black thing among the snow, crying, "Weep, weep," in notes of woe. Where are thy mother and father? Say, they are both gone up to the church to pray. Because I was happy upon the heath and smiled among the winter snow, they clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury, and are gone up to praise God and His priest and king, who make up a heaven of our misery. Okay, so here let's take a look at the fundamental elements that we know to start with. So here we go with our basic rhyme scheme. We have snow is going to get an A, and then woe is going to get an A. Say is a B, and pray is a B. Pretty simple, right? We've got three quatrains, and the first quatrain is comprised of of rhymed couplets. So let's look at Heath. We'll give Heath a C, and then snow goes back up to A. So it's not exactly a refrain line. So we're going to go ahead and give it an A nonetheless. Death then is slant C, and then woe is an exact rhyme to the A line. Sing, we're going to give it then a D. Injury, an E. King, a D, and then misery, an E. So you'll notice that the rhyme scheme is not consistent from quatrain to quatrain. Not only that, but as you can see, we've got the slant C there in the second quatrain. The idea here is that what Blake is doing, even in the rhyme scheme, is creating a sense of discord. All right, so let's take a quick look at the. We're going to do a scansion. Little black thing among the snow, unstressed syllable there, crying weep, weep, in notes of woe. Where are thy father and mother? Say, they are both gone up to the church to pray. All right, so let's see if we count the number of syllables. A little black thing among the snow. We have 9 beats here. Crying weep, weep in notes of woe. 8 beats. Where are thy father and mother? Say. 9 beats. Sorry, that's going to bug me. Pretty decent eraser here on the Kitaboshi. So 9, 8, 9, and then they are both gone up to the church to pray. Okay, and then 10. Because I was happy upon the heath, that's 10. and smiled among the winter snow. That's 8. They clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. That's 9. And let's go ahead and scan here. Because I was happy upon the heath. Heath, of course, is a sort of barren area you typically associate with Scotland. And smiled among the winter's snow. They clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. Okay, so interesting. We've got all rising meter here. It looks like in the first couple of stanzas. Then let me see if I can. Yeah, that's probably a little bit better there in terms of the contrast for us. Okay. All right. Because I am happy and dance and sing. You know what? I'm going to give that. I'm going to take that as unstressed. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury. Our first feminine ending here, and falling meter, and are gone to praise God and His priest and king, who make up heaven. We're going to give that one beat of our misery. All right, so let's see. And because I am happy and dance and sing, 11 beats there. First 11 beat line, they think they have done me no injury, 10 beats. And are gone to praise God and His priest and king, 11 beats, who make up a heaven of our misery, and 10. I'm good with that scansion. Okay, so as you can see now, again, even with the rhyme scheme, and now we're talking about the number of beats per line, 9, 8, 9, 10, 10, 8, 8, 9, 11, 10, 11, 10. It's just, if you have any unity at all, it's in the last stanza. But notice how the longer lines, 11 and 10 beats respectively, and they interlock. It's the sense of now, because we're talking about misery here, there's it's a lengthening of it. It makes it seem somewhat interminable. Okay, so a couple things to notice then is a little black thing among the snow. So the idea that the child is being referred to as a thing makes the child inanimate and dehumanizes it. Okay. If you wanted to put that in order, you could say it dehumanizes the child. Maybe I'll go ahead and do it in this order. Okay, so we'll say dehumanizes the child. I'll move that down a little bit. Dehumanizes the child, makes the child inanimate. Okay, so dehumanizes the child, makes it seemingly inanimate. Okay, a little black thing among the snow, crying weep, weep in notes of woe. So this goes back to the business from the first poem, in which the child is so young that his lisping attempt to say sweep is truncated into weep, weep. Clearly, here now, crying and weep, weep. I mean, these are two ideas that go hand in hand. Notice again here, this is our example of epizeuxis, which is the repetition of a word in immediate succession without intervening words. That is diacope. Where you've got a word that is repeated with words in between it. Diacope, D-I-A-C-O-P-E. But epizeuxis is a rhetorical figure of repetition. It is used for emphasis, for vehemence, as it's used here. So crying weep, weep, and notes of woe. Where are thy father and mother, say? They are both gone up to the church to pray. So if the child then is, in the beginning it's the chimney sweeper, so there's some doubt here maybe as to whether the child who in the first poem from Songs of Innocence was essentially sold into indentured servitude as a chimney sweep, and here the child, it sounds as though the child has been left out there to earn money for the family in this horrific labor. You know, one of the things that we didn't mention, or that I didn't mention in the maybe I did in the earlier poem, is with little Tommy Dacre and his dream about dying, that there's a visual image echo in the idea of the coffin and the chimney. Okay, so if we think about the chimney as looking like that, okay, and you've got the black hole that the children have to go down in, okay, think about what a coffin looks like. And that there should be in your mind the image echo of the two things. Okay, so just want to make that manifest here. Okay, so while in the other poem, the Chimney Sweeper, the idea is that that the little boy's dream is that the only way out of their life of horror at being forced down chimneys to clean them, because the boys were lowered on, with ropes and so forth. The soot on the inside of those chimneys was black, and depending on the kind of wood that's burned. So I guess if you know anything about wood, one thing you don't want to burn necessarily is it's like pines or any kinds of evergreens like that, because there's so much pitch and so forth in the soot that it just sticks to everything. Well, the same thing happens when you burn coal, that there's an oily element to it that just sticks to the inside of the chimneys, which is why they have to be scrubbed, because the accumulated smoke and soot and everything then starts to narrow the passage out for the smoke, and that's basically the only way that it gets cleaned is by human beings. Back in the day, anyway. Okay, so here notice the contrast in the idea that in the first poem, the only chance that the kids got for to have a decent existence is for him to die, and but then there's at least the promise of being taken to heaven with all the other children, and it's sunny in the meadow and all that kind of business. Okay, but here the mother and father, instead of working or doing anything to try to make the child's life better, it's the sense then that that the parents are praying. Okay, like Dear Lord, help us out of this situation, while the kid is busting his hump trying to make money for the family. So there's an irony to that that should be inescapable to you. Okay, because I was happy upon the heath and smiled among the winter's snow. Here we are going back to that first line. They clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. This here, the repetition of clothed and clothes, as you'll recall from our lesson the other day, is polyptoton. Polyptoton then being the repetition of words that have a common root. Here, then it's clothe. So that, again, another figure of repetition that is supposed to accentuate this idea of them clothing him in the clothes of death, meaning that he is wearing, he's clad in black to beg for someone to take him up, give him a job, but also the black, that they may have started him out in clothes of a lighter color, but because of his occupation, he is ultimately going to be besmirched by the soot and everything that he's forced to clean. Okay, so it's the idea that because I was happy upon the heath and smiled among the winter's snow. So here, a little child who is trying to make the best of things, and children generally have a sort of sunny disposition because they are innocent and they don't realize all the horrors in the world. And the parents thought that they could they could do whatever they want with the child, so they put him to work. And teach him to sing the notes of woe. So it's not only the idea of him crying, weep, weep here, but through experience of this hard life that his parents have forced him into, singing the notes of woe, meaning that he has seen the world up close in a way that a child really shouldn't. And so the crying that he does over his terrible conditions and circumstance, I mean, these are the notes of woe. So the idea that this is an implied music, really is ironic and horrible. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury. So so maybe the child has learned that if he is, if he just sits there and drags himself around, it's like going, sweep, sweep, that nobody's going to actually employ him. But if he looks, put on a happy face type thing, that he's more likely to get a job from someone that needs their chimneys cleaned out and this sort of thing. And so because he puts on this brave front, when children put on brave fronts, when they smile and laugh and so forth, the sense from the adults in the vicinity is, oh well, he's he's a happy child, and children don't have anything to worry about anyway. Okay, well, we all know. I mean, in your circumstance where you're, shut up in the house, and I'm sure your parents are like going, just shut it and get to work and do your schooling and that sort of thing. They may be. I hope that your parents are at least aware of the fact that that you might be pretty bummed out by your current circumstance, but it beats the heck out of what, having the virus, maybe being killed by the virus. So. Anyway, what I just gave you there is like the adult perspective on this, right? Okay, anyway, so they think they have done me no injury, but they have. They've forced the kid to grow up. I mean, a little bitty kid, forced him to grow up and take on an adult responsibility. So they're gone to praise God and His priest and king, who make up a heaven of our misery. And so this is a pretty pessimistic and relatively dire perspective on the world that the child through the speaker is saying, yeah, okay, so the adults that believe that God's an answer for everything and all you got to do is pray for things to be okay and they will be okay, and that all the misery that we're suffering in this world is this is just God's will, and everything's going to be fine in the next life. Well, that doesn't take away in the immediate term the horrors that the child is having to deal with. Okay, so I ask you then, if you take a look here, and are gone up to praise God and His priest and king. So this is the polysyndeton. Okay, the Remember we talked about that as the figure of repetition. It's the figure of rhythm and balance, in which the items in a series are separated by conjunctions. Again, the word syndeton means to join, so something that is syndetic means that it's joined. And so when you have poly, that's multiple syndetic elements. So the effect of that, of course, is that it draws it out. It makes it seem interminable. So here are the parents that are gone up to praise God and His priest and king and la 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 and all these other things in combination. And the child's perspective is that none of this is going to do any good. Who make up a heaven of our misery. So, I mean, again, stark commentary on the members of the church who are just saying, oh, earthly suffering is nothing when you have the afterlife, the glory of heaven and being with God and all the saints and so forth to look forward to. So to say, make up a heaven of our misery, again, super cynical view on the part of the speaker. Okay, so that's what I have to say about that particular poem, and then I'll be back to you later with one of the other poems.